Hey there. Hey there, hi there, ho there. Hi everybody, Adam Savage in my cave, and if my cave behind me looks darker than normal, that's because the cave behind me is darker than normal. Joey and I tested, we are about to put in a new lighting grid. So we've got this ceiling here. We've got this ceiling here that is, here actually, let me. All right, so here is the ceiling of my cave. There's a lot going on. There is a lot going on. Yeah, it's really important that I get this before. See all this crap? All this crap is not good. We don't need all this crap. We don't. We got to get rid of some of this crap. Oh, we're gonna come over here and spin around. So you see all the stuff here. Yeah, there we go. That. Whee. So that's the cave as it currently stands. And recently we did this very nice video. We'll include a link in the description for the lighting here. These soft boxes are part of a package that we can control with an iPad, and I can turn it into playtime, or I can go to drama, or I can go back to regular. Yeah, this is really going to be awesome. And we're about to add that exact same functionality to the roof here. But in order to start that, I need to pull everything out of the roof. Now, what does it mean to install a lighting system in here? What it really means is that we're going to hang a grid of 2-inch aluminum pipe that is 6 feet wide and 16 feet long. That will fill the space in here, and it'll have a couple of crossbars, and then we're going to hang lights from that grid. So I'm going to, oh, right. How am I hanging a lighting grid, this grid of aluminum? I'm glad you asked. I've got these things that are beam hangers here. So I put in some lag bolts in this, and this attaches to the beams up there in the ceiling. And it's, yeah, basically I'm distributing this load across 6 of these. The amount of lighting I'm hanging on here is maybe 100 pounds total across this whole grid. So I'm distributing that across 6 steel hangers and braided cable. A distributed system is a safe system. It means that there's no single point of failure. I believe that any one of these cables could hold up all the lighting that we have to hold up here. And so 6 is plenty. But the next thing I'm going to do is actually start to hang the first pieces of this grid. And I'm going to measure from some places and kind of, it's a whole thing. I just realized something I need to worry about. All right, give me just a second. Anyway, yeah, so hanging a lighting grid today. We're going well. Joey and I now have 4 of the 6 hanging points installed. I can't emphasize enough that this is not a tutorial about how to hang stuff in your shop. Do not come at me and say that you learned from here. There's a whole bunch of stuff about rigging I am not explaining necessarily, and it is tenuous and difficult and dangerous to hang things above yourself. So I just really want to make sure that this is not a video to teach you how to hang stuff from your ceiling, please. It's just what happened when I hung stuff from my ceiling. Oh, there's some more dust and dirt, and then we're going to start hanging some pipes. And the grid is in. This is a hard thing to see. There, yeah. There's the grid.
Hey folks, it is Joey here. I am on Adam's iPhone rig to give you a final tour of the rigs that we set up. The speed rail rig, all the lights, the app control, and all of that. I'm gonna give you a little bit of a tour of what we're thinking we're gonna be doing with this stuff in these two different areas of Adam's shop that we shoot in. But first, I wanna give a huge thanks to Amaran and Aputure. That's the company who has supplied all of these lights for us. They're sort of a sponsor of this build. We've been using their lights since day one. I've been in close contact with that company. And so we have a pretty big partnership. We're fans of theirs, they're fans of ours. And so this made sense. And of course, even if we weren't, I would still be using these lights because I am a huge fan of what they put out. So let's walk you through some of the basics here. You last saw Adam was setting up some of the speed rail. I was drilling in holes. We got all that stuff set up on safety cables. And then after that, I just went through and put up lights in various areas that can do multiple looks. There's a couple different philosophies on how we were approaching this. First and foremost, right now there's no lights on. It's a little bit of dark here. But being that it's so dark, you can sort of see where the iPhone sort of falls apart a little bit in low light situations. It gets really grainy, it gets really noisy. The image becomes a little bit blurred because the iPhone's trying to do certain things here with the sharpening and the aliasing and kind of trying to clean up the image. And so we want to avoid that by giving this room a little bit more light because naturally there's not a whole lot of windows. We have a skylight on that side of the cave, but that is very inconsistent and sort of direct and a little bit wonky at times. So first and foremost, we wanted to bring all the ambient light up in this entire place, which required a lot of area lights, a lot of space lights, which is totally fine for the main shop room where he does all the machining. But in this room, we got a little bit of a shorter ceiling, and so we can't put down big area lights. So the first things we needed to think about was, how are we going to provide enough ambient light that's not going to be in the way, but also not going to feel like a set, which is another big important thing for what we're doing here. This is Adam's space. This is the space where he feels comfortable working, where he wants to be. And we don't want to be blasting down huge studio lights into his eyes all day long. And so comfort was a big thing. Those were the things we needed to think about. Bring the ambient, first of all, bring the ambient level up. Make it comfortable, make it have the option to be comfortable. That's the key thing here. And that's where the app came in with the Sidus link and the Amaran Aputure stuff. Make it comfortable, make it controllable, and then figure out what kind of different looks that we wanted to do so that Josh or myself or anybody else that comes in and shoots in this location can have the option to change up the looks without tearing things down or setting up more stuff. The speed rail was a big part in making this mobile, making these lights mobile, making things a little bit more malleable without having light stands on the ground or mounting things to the walls. So what we have here is two massive rails coming through with almost like a figure eight with three smaller rails going on either side. We put that up because we knew that we were going to be putting lights all around the spot because he's in, this is probably the area that's a little more inconsistent because of that skylight. That skylight brings down an incredible amount of light in certain points of the day. And so we wanted to combat that a little bit. And the way we did that was we added a couple Aputures here, or Amarans rather. We have an Amaran F22C, which is this light panel. It's a panel that goes, it's like a mobile panel. It folds into like four pieces, folds out, and then you can add this layer of diffusion and this little softbox around it. Completely controllable. So we added that there, and then we added an Aputure 200 chip on board light. So this is like a little spotlight that we have over there as well. I'll show you what the difference is. But here we have a soft volume attachment. It basically diffuses and spreads out this light. And the same light is used over here as a spotlight. This is the Amaran 200. So it's the same light sitting up there just with the spotlight attachment. I actually need to put a Fresnel. I'm going to put a Fresnel there, and that's going to be giving backlight. I'll demonstrate some of that stuff with our cameras and me standing in these locations. I'll turn all these on in just a second, but I just want to give you a little tour. F22, another F22C, giving a nice big softbox source. And then a couple of these little spots here. These are Aputure 60Xs, which are like these scoop lights that are going to be giving some background lights. Those things are not going to be really lighting Atom at all. They're really just going to be adding pockets of light in areas that we want to either bring up the values on, or even in this case in here, I'm adding some shadows, some cool light on the back bricks, but then also punching it through the thing and some of these cables to add some shadows and some depth. Just try to make this place a little bit more three-dimensional. And then I have a couple of lights here that are actually on this rig, but are shooting into the next space, which we will go into now. This was the room that needed the most light levels brought up. And unfortunately, not a whole lot of room to, make those area lights that you saw, those volumetric spherical lights hang down. And so a lot of the stuff here was top lit, unfortunately. So we have two F22Cs, which are those light panels here coming down on some of these work tables. There's another one coming down, and then we have a couple. We have a couple of those 60Xs adding some little pockets of warm light over like his tape, and just to give it a little bit more something harder, something to contrast with some of the areas here. So you get some various looks and various light levels and tonality stuff throughout that area. And then I have a bunch of tube lights in here. So these tube lights are sort of the MVP here. There's a lot of fluorescence in this shop, and the tube lights here are meant to replace those in a lot of regards. His fluorescent lights actually don't have a terrible light quality or a color meter reading that's too off the charts. And so we have utilized some of them, but some of these we've just taken offline and then put these Amaran tube lights here. And then Adam built some foam core sort of coverings here to keep that light directly, blasting in his eyes as he's working. And so those are set up in various areas of the shop just to give that workspace fluorescent fixture look to it. Over here, I did something kind of unique, in that is I took a smaller version of that tube light and then I put a pool noodle around it. It is a white pool noodle that helps diffuse that light. It brings it down a couple stops, but it diffuses that light, makes it a little bit softer and a little more gentle, and spreads it out a little bit nicely. It is an old technique, not old, but it's a technique that has been used in the film industry. It's not new here, but it's something that I've really taken to. Let's go ahead and turn some of these on. I'll show you what they look like and what the app looks like. Right over in Adam's shop here, we have an iPad that's dedicated to this. I have a mini here that's going to replace this big one, but let's go ahead and turn this on. And you can go ahead and see that I've added a bunch of quick shots here for Adam to just come in and simply turn something on. Now, the reason there's a lot of different settings here is because, like I said, Adam's comfort is a big part of this. We don't want to make this like a studio light setup to where he's not going to be comfortable being in here for 8 to 10 hours a day. And so I have a standard setup here that's something that he can just turn on, and it gives him a good amount of light throughout his shop, but is also set to be a little bit warmer. Our cameras are usually set, this is going to be getting a little bit in the weeds, but our cameras are usually set around 4,500 Kelvin, which is sort of lands in the middle of tungsten and daylight. That is something that is the closest to what was in Adam's, this area of Adam's cave where the skylight is. As that skylight cuts through that ND, it sort of bounces around, and you think about light, it's not really just the light source that's adding light, but everything the light bounces off of is adding some color. It's becoming its own light source. And so the general ambient Kelvin in this shop usually hovers around 4,500. It's like 4,000 to 4,700, depending on the day. But 4,500 is where we landed on it. He likes his shop a little bit warmer. So he likes it in somewhere in the 3,800 Kelvin. So you're getting to warmer light, you're getting more towards tungsten. And so that's what we have here. And the iPhone can resolve that. The iPhone is trying to do a lot. It is taking the light levels and doing its own auto white balance and giving him, normalizing him just a little bit while keeping him a little bit warmer in here. And, we sacrifice a little bit of light levels, and the iPhone tries his best to resolve that. But that's the trade-off, right? When he's shooting here with his iPhone and he wants to be comfortable, this is what we're going for. The second option is when Josh and myself are shooting with the FX6, which when we're in here with our cameras and we're actually shooting, we want the white balance in this room and this room both consistent. Because even though it's when we're here, it's still a little bit manipulated by the sun, the skylight there, and that's actually like cooling it down quite a bit. And so there's still a bit of inconsistencies. So I set up a second quick shot called the FX6 shoot, which is when we're using our FX6 cameras. And what that does is it basically just punches all of this light up just a little bit and brings it all back to 4500, which is what our professional cameras are set to. So we don't have to roll the ISO as high on our Sony FX6 to get correct exposure. It's a little bit more lit here. So like if this was how Adam was working, this would probably drive him a little bit nuts because there's just so much light here, but also we just have so much more flexibility with our cameras. So we can do slow motion and we can higher frame rate stuff and not have to worry about dropping down, our exposure to such a degree that we need to use our gain to amp things up and do, deal with noise or compression issues there. And so that's where we landed on those two main setups. And these are where we live most of the time. And then also we just have a ton of options to be able to play around. So there's a little event happening here. And so we came in here and just started messing with dials and gave it a little bit more of a fun look. So, all these things, most of these lights are RGBW. And so, now I can give it some blues and some reds and sort of some pulsing fireside lights. It's not something that we normally shoot in, or, maybe we'll shoot some B-roll and this kind of stuff. But just something a little more atmospheric or a little more stylized to have some fun in. Yeah, you have tons of options with this app. Of course, there's effects built in. If we wanted to do some like lightning effects or some faulty bulb stuff, if we were doing something dramatic in here, or we wanted to like play around with something a little bit of a flash. Like I can set the spotlight back here to do a little bit of a flash, and we can throw some fog in when Adam's doing some spacesuit tests and make it a little more dramatic. I have one called like a stand-up, ad reads or something where he's talking down to the camera. We have a little bit of a spotlight here to give him some backlight. And then I got some front light here. And then everything back here dims down so that most of the level lands on him while falling off in the back to give some light contrast and also color contrast. These are a little bit warmer. And then I have the blue light sort of shining onto the wall back there through the thing, adding those shadows. And so, yeah, you just have a bunch of different options on that regard. So I mentioned how the speed rail rig over on this side of Adam's shop is providing the lights for that side of the shop. But also we have on this furthest side of this rail, we do have some lights that are pouring in through here to add levels to this side of the shop. Again, the ceilings are low on here. There isn't a whole lot of wall space. And so we can't add a whole lot of lights coming in at a more horizontal angle to help lift up some of those shadows or do some fill light. Everything is kind of top heavy here. We do have a little bit of help from the F22Cs that are just angled just ever so slightly, and they don't have egg crates. Typically what you want to do in more controlled situations is they have the soft source here, and then you put these things called egg crates down, and they sort of add a grid that help narrow the spread beam down. So like right now, my fist is getting light, but if you had those egg crates, they're a black grid, and the light would really just be coming downwards, and so you would get a little bit less on your hand here. But we need that help in here. We need a little bit more level on Adam's face when he's just standing here, or else it's just going to be these big drops of light. And so I took those egg crates off. At some point, I might add some duvetine and block out some areas. I think the next step for this whole area is to block out light, start removing angles of light so that we can add some more tonal contrast to this, to these scenes, basically. So there you go. Lots of cool, fun lighting changes, toys to play with. This is going to be a lot of fun. I think the app, if these were all just dumb lights where we just turn them all on and let that be what it is, this wouldn't be as exciting. But the fact that we can go into this and not only like take this iPad with us and just have us all the shooters that come through here be able to change to their own look that they want, and then also having Adam be able to come in here and have fun playing with this stuff, I think that's really, really exciting. So thank you guys for joining us on this speed rail rig lighting build setup, and thank you again to Amaran and Aputure for helping us with this, sponsoring this build, being such a great partner for so many years. We will see you guys next time on another, if we do more lighting. As this evolves and change, we might jump in and do some updates, and we'd love to get you guys' thoughts on what you would like to see us do with some of this stuff. Until then, bye.